Hello, everybody. Today I'm joined by a man whose story is as powerful as his mission. From family roots in Guatemala to Brooklyn, from homelessness to Oxford, Cesar is now the CEO of one of the top PR and lobbying firms in the U.S. He's worked with some companies like Tesla, Hyperloop, and more. But more than that, he's a father and he's a husband and a man of deep values. I'm excited to have you on the show, Cesar.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the invite, brother. Thanks for shooting me that DM. I always love to connect with people on the different platforms, and I love what you're building and the community that you're building out.
I appreciate you saying that. It's my pleasure. And for the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, Cesar Hernandez, I am the founder and the current CEO of Omni Public. We're a full suite public affairs firm that specializes in introducing new concepts and ideas into the marketplace, and we navigate media, government, and industry. It's a very fancy way of saying that I'm a lobbyist and I'm a publicist. I've worked with probably some of the biggest tech companies in the world: Tesla, Uber, Hyperloop, Bird Rides, Scoot, Porsche, GM. Been doing this for around 15 years at this point in my career, represented over 400 to 450 startups, academic institutions, universities. We represent universities like the University of South Florida's College of Medicine, go Bulls, Texas A&M, go Aggies, and so on and so forth. I've even worked with some big lot consulting firms like Bain and Company, and I'm obsessed with consulting. We also do a lot of work with some public officials, strategic communications for members of Congress, the Senate, and even some mayors.
Now, Caesar, it's always fascinating to hear the why behind everyone's passions. I mean, how did the Omni Public get started?
That's a good question. I would liken it to, have you ever read Plato's Republic?
I have not.
So I recommend people read Plato's Republic, and it's similar. I went through a journey that oddly is kind of similar to that. And here's Plato's Republic. You have this philosopher, Socrates, whose goal is to find the wisest person of all. And in this journey, he went to the people who were running the government. And he realized that they weren't the wisest because they were so close to power. He went to the entrepreneurs and they realized that they weren't the wisest because they were so obsessed with avarice and greed. And he went to the creatives and he said that the creatives were the closest to being the wisest, but they thought that that creativity translated into other arenas. And ultimately, he suggested that he's the wisest because he's the one who knows that he actually knows nothing. And because he knows that he knows nothing, he is the wisest of them all because he can accept that he knows nothing. Now, in my career, when I got out of undergraduate studies at USF, I wanted to make an impact. So the first thing that I did was I was a community organizer, right? And I worked in Suitcase City in Tampa. Is probably one of the it's sort of the most violent area in 8 counties. And my job was violence intervention and prevention, resource navigation, really helping the people in that community that were very disenfranchised. And I realized that I was one paycheck away from them. Right. So like my heart was in it. And I would always reach out to elected officials and they would tell me the exact same thing. They said, Caesar, I'm so proud of your work. You're doing God's work. And they would take pictures with me and they would leave. But when we asked for certain things, they wouldn't move. And I was just perplexed as to why don't you want to do things? And it was very simple because that community was disenfranchised. It wasn't a voting community. It didn't galvanize any type of political power or authority. And that's why it's easy to overlook them. And so I said, well, if I can't make change as a community organizer, I want to be a part of government. I want to know how the sausage is made. And then I became a legislative aide at City Hall. And while being at City Hall, I understood how government operated because being an aide at a city, you engage with the state, you engage with the feds, and you do what's called intergovernmental relations, right? At that point, the city council. But then I realized things kind of move slow in the government. right? And I thought that people that are in office were probably like geniuses, but then coming around them, I realized that isn't necessarily the case. And some of them move a lot slower than others. So then I said, well, if it can't be in government, let me go work in political consulting that's going to bring the people in to run for office. So then I worked in political consulting and worked on everything from campaigns in Contra Costa County for a school district all the way up to presidential campaigns and everything in between. And in that process, I realized something. Number one, you don't know somebody until you run them for office. Because when you run them for office, you're going to know what they're about. Right. And also, not everybody's running for office for the right reasons. And so I said, well, I don't know if this is the place to find how to make change. And then I thought to myself, well, let me actually take the knowledge that I have, go back into government and lobby for governments in represent governments to other governments. So I work for the county, I work for special districts, which are like transit authorities, school districts. And 1 year, I probably brought back $65 million in appropriations to my region, right? I'm not an elected official. I'm just a lobbyist, but I understood how to navigate the state, the feds, regional, but even though I was bringing back $65 million that 1 year, I was still making 60K a year. And I realized very quickly, though, that even being within government and trying to produce all these amazing projects, that I could do this a lot faster in the private sector. And that's why I left and I started my own shop and brought the clients that I engaged with to produce public-private partnerships to the table. And then I picked and choose the people and the technologies that I believed in so that I can manufacture change as a private citizen and with the understandings and dealings that I have, as opposed to waiting for somebody to help or working within government or working within politics. The key is to have a good understanding of these arenas and manufacture change and derive the variable that you want. And that's how OmniPublic started.
Now, Caesar, I can just speculate on this one, but it seems like you're a lover of wisdom. That's how you got so far.
Wisdom is paramount, right? It is, you know, people have become obsessed with money and they've also become obsessed with happiness, right? I'm not happy. I want to do things that make me happy. What does that mean? I don't want happiness. I want joy. Joy is a wellspring. How do you produce a wellspring of joy? You need wisdom in your life as to how to maneuver and navigate so that that wellspring can continue to give birth to these waters that bring joy. And so I want to be the wisest version of myself, because if I'm the wisest version of myself, I realize that all these other tangible things that people become obsessed with just become a byproduct. And the truest form of wisdom is God. And the literal wisdom of God is Jesus. And so I am obsessed with the teachings of Jesus because we have God that became man and came to this earth and gave us his wisdom, his word, right? The logos. And so that's why I'm obsessed with wisdom. So I'm always reading, right? I love to read the classics because I think it all ties back to God and to Christ. So yes, I want to be the wisest draft of me. That's like my ultimate goal.
No, that makes a lot of sense because the way you present yourself, the way you lead your organization, um, I just got a question. What is the biggest problem you solve for tech companies?
The biggest problem that I solve for tech companies, so tech companies typically come to me because they have three distinctive challenges, right? One is they are in a very saturated market and they want to break away. Right. And so how can we create their value proposition, something that's so distinctive and attractive that when someone else has that similar solution, they would rather utilize them. Right. So there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace and they want to stand out. That's one thing. The second thing is there isn't a political or a policy environment for their technology to be extant or for their technology to thrive. So think like bird rides, right? they've gone bankrupt since, but they're no longer my clients. But Bird Rides, micromobility, scooters, the highest billion-dollar valuated company in American history, right? But there wasn't any rules or regulations as to how to utilize micromobility scooters. There's no laws. We have to create the law. Think Uber, rideshare. Rideshare was illegal. Transportation network company concept did not exist. So right now I'm working on things like autonomous systems and AI and how that interfaces with the citizenry, right? With the people that are actually going to partake of this technology. So that's the second thing is confusion in the market. There isn't a regulatory environment for them to actually be extant. And I help to assuage and help to create the policy environment for them. And then the third thing is they've either just raised money and they need a raise announcement. So they need to convey security and stability. So that's when I work with like the tech crunches of the world, Bloomberg, NASDAQ, stock exchange, right? They're raising money. Or they need to raise. Hey, I need to raise. Can you put me in the right newsletters? Can you put me in the right business press to convey to my investors that how legitimate we are, right? Or they're going to IPO. Hey, we're about to go public. Can you put us in the right rooms, in the right arenas so that my valuation is congruent with our actual value, right? And so that the PE or whoever's on the other side of that deal, those covenants are so stringent because you got like a rock star CEO and company. So these are the things that we pretty much solve for startups and for tech companies, and why we're very busy because we're really good at what we do. Like I can see a problem just from being in this arena, and I can give you value within 15 minutes if you're like a tech startup.
No, thank you for unpacking that, Caesar. That's a great takeaway. And what makes your firm different from other PR and lobbying groups?
Yeah, so exactly what you just said, right? From other PR and lobbying groups. So lobbying firms are typically great at lobbying, and that's hard. And I might not be the greatest lobbying firm and I have the most intimate relationships, but I understand what my clients need, and that is procurement, which means like B2G. So how to like engage with the government because I was a part of that process and writing requests for proposals, and appropriations. And appropriations are a formal ask from a nonprofit to the government to produce a specific project, right? And I'm probably one of the best in the country when it comes to appropriations and procurement for tech. So there may be firms that are bigger, have more intimate relationships, but they do not understand tech the way that I do, and they may not understand how to navigate regulatory policies at the level that I have because I've done it on the other side, like from within governments. It's very distinctive. So that's one thing. PR shops have no idea how government relations work. So a PR shop would come in and say, hey, my job is done. I got you on Forbes. Yay. No, that's where we start, right? My firm is like, we're going to put you in this specific column because I know that this senator reads this column and we're going to have a meeting with this senator next week. And so you're going to break the ice just by being in this column. There's been a lot of times where I'm going to go broker a deal with a specific public official and my client's on the cover of the magazine that's in the senator's lobby.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
By design, right? So
Hmm.
we do this by design, and also the methodologies that we utilize, right? What I do is something called non-market strategy. And what non-market strategy is everything that impacts the company that has nothing to do with how the company produces its widget, meaning to say, politics, policy, community, media, regulation has nothing to do with how an entrepreneur makes their thing, but will impact that thing, right? And so I specialize in all these other things. And then the second thing is it's a part of a broader academic discipline, which is called systempreneurship. And what systempreneurship is navigating multiple systems interdependent of each other. So don't create a big committee and pointing them into the direction of a specific objective, right? So having government regulation, media, public opinion shift in the favor of the objective that I'm trying to yield. And so like, you know, I'm probably one of the only people in the world outside of the big lot McKinsey's, Bain and companies that are doing this. And so that's what's different. So whenever there's another PR company, I come in the room, they're like, hide, because most of the stuff that they're doing is super outdated. Or if there's a lobbying firm and I come in a room, they know that I have a much superior level of communications than they do. And so I'm like this hybrid, and honestly, we're the future of where consulting is going. You have to understand media and government together, not just one.
Yeah, no, Caesar, you and the Omni group really impacted the future of transportation. I mean, what was it like working with Tesla, Hyperloop, and Bird?
Yeah, I mean, so Tesla was interesting because we produced a public-private partnership with the Hillsborough Transit Authority, right? And so we created this P3 where this is in 2017. At that point, Tesla was flirting with the idea of becoming a rideshare company called the Tesla Network. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to run their vehicles in an autonomous fashion like rideshare. So if you bought a Tesla, you would go home, go to sleep, and your Tesla would leave you and operate like an Uber by itself, make you money, drive back home, stay there. Now, what we did was they needed the data to see if their vehicles could function in that type of space. So we utilized Tesla vehicles as a rideshare vehicle, right? Brought in a transportation network company to produce the app, and then brought in the government to create the regulation to allow us to pilot a program that we called Hyperlink, where people would use Teslas like rideshare to maneuver within specific regions of a city. And then also outside of those regions, instead of taking them, it would connect them to like a transportation hub, which will connect them to the rest of the city. And that very, very early kind of piloting and programming is the preface for Tesla being used for Uber. So if you went to Europe, their Uber Blacks are all Teslas, right? If you see people using Teslas as Uber, it's because of the data that we use, right? And now they're going to have the robo taxi, which is built upon all the stuff that we did in 2017, right? However, in 2017, people thought that Tesla was going to flop. So today I can say, yeah, I work with that company, but when I was working with them, people thought that they were going to be a battery company. They thought that this was going to flop. So now it's a track to say, but when I was actually in it, people didn't care. Hyperloop, amazing company, Hyperloop Transportation Technologies. We helped to get them. When I started working with them, people thought that Hyperloop was a pipe dream. Now they're federally mandated through the FRA, and federal and governments, not just federal governments, can actually go after block grants to produce Hyperloop systems, right? So that was pretty cool. But when I was working on it, like they would laugh, like this is stupid, it's never gonna happen, blah blah blah. So it's been amazing, right? Working with these companies. For Uber, we were a part of the advocacy team to kind of shift public opinion through the transit authority so that state regulations would permit Uber to function. So I worked with the Uber legislative affairs team that was up in Tallahassee, and we were on that advocacy team trying to galvanize support against the taxi lobbyists. So that was the complete like civil affairs strategy that we created within the city of Tampa and in Tampa Bay, so that they can leverage the state team to actually go ahead and make it legal.
Yeah, that connection can be a game changer for most businesses.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the transportation bubble has popped, right? But in 2017 to 2020, there was a lot of opportunity for you to come in. But now the data's there, and I think that there's a lot of incumbents, right, that have taken over. I think that the future of transportation in America is private, right? Referendums are failing, and if they're not failing, they're taking them back. And so you got to learn from that, right? And I think that the future is private. private transportation outside of like those major cities that have already these large commitments, like a city of New York. Solutions for mid-tier cities or cities that are on the cusp of being bigger tier, like in Orlando, a Tampa, a St. Pete, is private sector.
Well, that's incredible information because when I went to Chicago, it was full of just Ubers, but they were all Teslas.
Like
It
that.
wasn't even their Teslas. They went to a certain area, they hopped in the Tesla to drive it. I mean, eventually I can see that being self-driving like you were saying, without the person.
That's the purpose. So Tesla is not a car company. They're a data company. And what those vehicles are doing 24/7 is collecting information for their area. So when you're driving it, it's collecting info, collecting info, collecting info, collecting info, because you have to program it through multiple scenarios, and you got to give it like an infinite amount of scenarios to be able to react. And so when you're using a Tesla, you're purchasing a vehicle that's essentially being used as a data component that you're sharing back to the mothership to produce future products.
Oh, that's such a good point. And what you're doing is you're paving the road for the future on all these technologies. I mean, how do you help tech companies work with governments?
Well, very simple, right? So some tech companies don't realize that they don't need to wait for requests for proposals. You can pitch a government entity. And so a lot of times they engage with me to set up specific meetings so that I can set them up, whether city, state, or even some actors in the federal government, so they can produce these like pilot initiatives, right? And showcase to the government that, hey, my technology will be useful. And after these pilot initiatives, you can potentially aggrandize the scope, or other government entities can request that you issue a task order, which just means that, like, say if I'm the city of New York and I'm doing a pilot with the city of New York, I have reclused myself from going after a future RFP with the city of New York, right? Because I have an in with them. But the city of New York can then issue a task order to, say, a county in northern New York, and I can then produce whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish for them. And then I can issue a task order from them to another county, another county, another county. So I can actually start producing a yield for my company outside of like a competitive bid, right? Now I can't go after the RFP in the future, but it's a good way to start engaging with government and then starting to galvanize market share for whatever it is that your tech is doing that is being helpful to the government.
Now, Caesar, how do you pick which companies to work with?
My bad.
Oh, I think you lost me for a second, but I asked you, how do you pick which companies to work with?
I mean, to be honest with you, Matthew, it's like just my business is very word of mouth. Like, if you know, you know. At some point, we attempted ads, and to me, it just came across like a giant inflatable waving arm man. And sometimes I'll get on calls, and it was just like people, like, it was like using me is for some of the things they wanted to do, was like, killing a mosquito with a shotgun. And so we're very, very word of mouth. Typically people reach out to me or a member of my team or through the website, right? Or through work that I'm already doing. And then when they come to me, I just vet it, right? Are they legit? Are they funded? Do they have a good background in this? And I have a really good knack, right? Just instinctually, is to, hey, do I want to work with them, and do I not want to work with them? And if I don't want to work with them, I just don't. If I don't think that if it's a legitimate product, I just don't do it.
Now, what should a company expect if they hire you and your team?
Well, the number one thing they should expect is that we're obsessed with our work. Money's cool, but I am passionate about consulting. I get to change the world through my clients. That's powerful. I strongly feel that the world isn't void of good ideas, but that it is void of good people to help bring those ideas to fruition. And that's me. I'm an appendage. So if you have this amazing company, you're funded, and you need the right partner that could be a chief strategy officer for you and navigate government relations and public affairs and media relations for you, That's us. That's us. And that's the number one thing that they're going to get is an obsession for the quality of work, not just, hey, I'm here to make money. No, I'm obsessed with this. Number two, a very unique lens. Like I went to the best schools in the world so that I can give my clients the best advice possible. And then number three, transparency. I'm always very like, if this is either going to happen or it's not going to happen, what is the likeliness of this happening, whether it's unlikely or likely? I hate making guarantees that I can't fulfill. And so I'm always very transparent and honest.
That is a great takeaway. I mean, with all your years of experience, it would be really, it's really great that all these companies should go to you because you have all these years of experience. What's one of the projects you're most proud of?
Man, I think one of the projects that I'm extremely proud of that it'll probably take within 10, 20 years is we created like the very first study for advanced transportation and modalities in like Hyperloop, air taxis, autonomous vehicles in the state of Florida. And that language is being utilized to create the policies for how people are going to use air taxis, Hyperloops, autonomous vehicles, right? One day people will be using those things. And it was that policy that we passed. It was called the ITT study that we passed to initially begin to look at these technologies. And so that's probably going to, outlive me by 100 years because that's the direction everything's going, right? It's like if you help to create, the car, we're still using it. So that was one of the things that I was like, wow, this is such a big deal. Nobody realizes what just happened. I think the second thing that I thought was really cool is I launched like my own tech accelerator. So I was able to get like $500,000 in funding to attract around 25 of the most talented startups from the Western Hemisphere to come to Tampa Bay. And three of them are actually moving their headquarters here. And I believe that out of the 25, at least one is going to be $1 billion company that will be headquartered here and probably, hire thousands of people. I will never receive a monetary benefit from it. I will never really even be as tied in, but to know that I had that type of economic impact, produced a tech accelerator, moved people here, one will probably be a unicorn and then reinvest into future startups in the area. That was a really cool thing that I was able to see. And lastly, I'd probably say that the work with Hyperloop was really cool because eventually this nation will be connected through Hyperloop systems. I will be able to get from like Tampa to Miami in 15 minutes. And it started with the policy, right? And so it's going to be really, really cool to just see that in the future. Like right now, if I go into downtown Tampa and I see there's Teslas riding around like rideshare through Dash, right? They're going to have an autonomous vehicle pilot. Uh, they're going to have like a drone pilot system. When I go down there and I see those things and I see people rolling around in a scooter, like, I worked on all those things. You're all welcome. Like you literally, like I worked on every single one of those things. I don't receive a residual from it because the project's done, but people are using this technology from the work that my team did.
It's pretty remarkable how you're a pioneer in all these technologies.
Yeah, I got lucky. I love solving problems. I love bringing really cool things to fruition, and I think I got really lucky.
Now, how did Oxford prepare you for your work now?
Oxford it's a fascinating place, and if you ever go, it is magical. Like there's just something about that university and that city that just attracts thinkers. And at Oxford, they'll never claim to know that they are right. They will never, like, the way of thinking isn't, hey, this is it. It's, I need more information. I need to ask more questions. And so to be able to think in that way of not needing to be right, but asking for more data, more information, that in the continuous mode of inquiring, in that you come across the solution, right? Like you stumble upon it. And that's what I love. So whenever I look at a problem, I'm always asking for more information. And another thing that they really lean on, because they give you an executive coach, is not urgency, right? But they lean on the quality of the time needed to solve it, right? So they'll tell you things like, if you wanted to solve this problem, how would you solve it? And I would say, all right, I would do this is what I need. And they said, all right, if your life depended on it, how would you solve it? And now your mind's like, whoa, I think I would do this, and this. And these are real things that they taught us. My executive coach, Tom Batty, that he also coaches the UK Olympic team. And so these are how they kind of position you to start thinking about problems. And it helped me tremendously, right? Because all I do is solve problems for my clients day in and day out.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, most people don't even think about it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure about most people, but like I said, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is paramount for me, right? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And so I'm a lifelong learner. I want to continue to learn, and I want to synthesize my learning by taking what I know and trying to apply it to real life scenarios or situations, right? And so I think it's become popular to almost negate the importance of academia and of an education. And I would say that that's completely false, because at the end of the day, you're going to stumble upon someone who's very learned that you need. If you become a billionaire, self-made, didn't go to college, dropped out of school, I guarantee you that corporate attorney you're going to want from Harvard, Yale, or Stanford, right? So I'm going to guarantee you the person that's leading your investment fund is going to be from HBS. So it's just like, it's become popular to be like, "Oh, we don't need that. I don't need that." Yeah, but eventually you're going to need the intelligentsia, right? And so I always say, be a part of that. And education, it's not equal, right? Some of these universities have a monopoly on knowledge, on specific knowledge. And what I would implore people to do, if this is attractive to you, look at those institutions and go after those. Like, I started at community college. So yeah, I went to Oxford, and now I'm a fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School, but I went to BMCC, start here, go anywhere. Like, my very first math class in college was remedial math. My last math course I took, my professor won a Nobel Prize. It's like, it doesn't, so it's not, oh, I didn't come from that. Like, no, like I was going to community college, but my pursuit of an education and my consistency in the application of that education allow me to then be able to pursue some of these academic credentials at these universities.
No, that's very good advice. I mean, that can be life-changing for some people out there. And I really want to know, what's your long-term goal for Omni Public?
I mean, what we're morphing into right now is a consulting group, and we're becoming a tech company. And so OmniPublic is very good at these non-market variables, right? That a lot of these tech companies need. And my background is transportation, tech, mobility, from a policy side and a builder side. And so right now what we're doing is we're launching an AI that is interoperable. So an AI that can navigate between multiple hardware and be housed in one arena. And so OmniPublic is becoming a consulting group, and then we'll be able to consult for governments how to launch their AI and drone systems, or we can produce that for them. So I've been spending probably about the last year in creating the value chain of drone operators, software engineers, essentially veterans that were doing this for the military, so that now we can produce this kind of paramount product for cities, counties, governments. And our specific aim is going to be crisis response systems. So drones that'll kind of come out, survey the scene before things happen, right? And so that's the next thing. And I'm going to be at Harvard for the next year building out that side of Omni Public.
That vision is powerful and inspiring.
Thank you, sir.
Now, what problem do you still see and you want to solve in this space or all these spaces in technology?
You see, I don't see so much as a problem yet, because I need to be in it more, right? I need to ask more questions. But what I do see are some blinders. And I know enough to know from my journey that I am not going to wait for a good actor to come into this space and be a benevolent actor and utilize it and wield it for good. I want to come into the space myself because I know what I would be able to do and how I would interact with it as opposed to somebody else. And so the reason why I'm going to the Kennedy School of Government is to look at equitable AI and autonomous systems and how they interface with the citizenry and for the public good. And so, as opposed to me having a delegate, right? Like most people that are citizens of a country have some kind of delegate or trustee saying, this is how to do it and just trust us. No, 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 no. I want direct. I'm going to go. I want like to cultivate it because I know what I can control and I can control me. Right. And so that's the blinder that I see and why I'm going into this space. And I'm just uniquely suited because the things that you would need I have, right? I can house them. And so that's kind of what I see. I think that there isn't regulation around AI and information and how it's digested and how it interacts. And to be completely honest, a lot of public officials just do not understand technology and they don't understand how this maneuvers because they may just not have spent the time or maybe this is out of their arena. And so my value is to actually come in and be someone that understands this and how it should actually interface and engage as opposed to just being a spectator.
Now, Caesar, with all your years of experience, are you seeing any transition in crypto in any of these technologies or anything moving forward?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say that what's happening in blockchain and in crypto is fascinating because just like with any new technology, you're going to have the bubble burst. And then the people, the remnants of that bursting are the legitimate players. And so it did its own little market correction. And a lot of these technologies have real value proposition. Some don't, right? I'll plug in a company I work with, Metallicus and Marshall Hayner. I think that he is the future of blockchain technology, right? His technology is being utilized by over 80 credit unions, federal credit unions. That's legit. Hey, here's a blockchain that banks are actually utilizing their technology, right? There's some that they say they're going to do it, but there's actual application, right? And so there's a lot happening within blockchain now within the real players, the real players. And now I think that what's happened is this dynamic equilibrium where the real players are coming in, right? And they're establishing the rules of the game and they will become the incumbents. And that's what would occur with blockchain. But even with that, you have to be mindful if you're newer to it, that it is an asset, but just like with any asset, it can lose value. That's any that's stocks, bonds, like it really is. And I don't think it's going anywhere because you have countries that have Bitcoin holdings, right? And so when you have countries holding a digital asset like that, it's not going to go anywhere anytime. I don't think that it'll replace the gold standard. I don't think that everything should be into crypto. Like I'm not like I'm only going to use crypto. I don't think we're there yet, but it is something that should be a part of your portfolio. It is something that you should be aware of and be knowledgeable of. And I also strongly feel that blockchain has an opportunity to make government efficient. So not necessarily crypto, but actual blockchain technology can make government much more efficient.
And that's a great takeaway. And I can just speculate on that. Is it rules and regulations that we're waiting for the blockchains to basically transition everything moving forward?
I mean, it's yes and no, right? I would say right now, what David Sachs is the czar of AI and blockchain. I think this administration is much more of like a Bitcoin and crypto maximalist. So I strongly feel that, however you feel about the administration, this administration is probably going to get more done for blockchain and crypto than any other previous administration has ever done. And so they're going to make a ton of strides towards being mainstream, within the next 2 to 4 years. I strongly feel that. I think you're going to see more countries start to hold Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be going through like its inflections and it will diminish in value. But if you've been following this for 10 years, that's natural occurrence. So it's very buzzy to say, oh, we're down, 15, it was at 100 and it's gonna burst. And it's like everybody who is in this industry is like, yes, this is natural, right? It's a natural where it's gonna hit its floor and it's gonna hit a new ceiling, new floor, new ceiling, new floor. But I do think it'll easily get over 150K this year. Some people say 200, I say like 150.
No, that's a great takeaway, Caesar. And I just want to tell listeners this is not financial advice at all to anyone out there. Take your own risk at your own reward. And Caesar, I really want to dive into your family and legacy. I mean, how do you balance being a CEO and a father of four?
Well, number one, this word of like balance, it sets you up for failure, right? Because if you're in balance, you're out of focus, right? And so the way to look at it is not like a layered cake, but like a marble cake. When you're in focus, you need to understand that your business, your enterprise, your family, your wife, and God need to be in focus at all times. If you say, I'm going to partition X amount of time for my business, and then I'm gonna partition X amount of time for my wife and X amount of time for my children, you're gonna set yourself up for absolute failure because then it comes across like checkbox. Hey, let's spend my 6 hours with you. Hey, date night. Hey, hip, 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 hip. And because the way that the mind works, it says, oh, but this week I did date night. I spent one-on-one time with my kid. I did this. Blah, blah, blah. Whereas if it's in focus, and if things are in harmony, you are checking in with your wife throughout the day. You are trying to listen to her, right? Is she in pain? Is she hurt? Is she sick? What's going on with your children? You'll check throughout the day. And it's a part of your life. Some of the best CEOs, I have this one client of mine that I love dearly, Garen Angel. He was the founder of Magical Butter and Magical Grow. And invented like the gummy machine, so how to create gummies. And now he's working on an AI that builds plants and vegetables in a controlled arena through AI. And he has this thing where if his son calls him, he picks up, and it doesn't matter like who he's meeting with. He will always pick up, and if he's busy, if his son or daughter picks up, and son, daughter, wife picks up, he'll pick up and, hey, I'm in a meeting, I love you, call you back. You know what I'm saying? That's hard. That's flow. That's focus. Everything's in focus. It's not easy, right? Like we're still gonna have our dissent. We're still gonna, have conflicts within family. But the key is focus, not necessarily balance, because if you're in balance, you're out of focus. And so you want to stay in focus. Now there's seasons, right? There's super seasons where like, maybe you have an exit, you have much more time. But then if you're an entrepreneur, you'll get that itch again, right? And so, everything has a due season and everything merits focus, not necessarily balance.
That's a great takeaway, and some people just struggle with this to figure out their family life. And I appreciate you sharing that because a lot of people struggle with it. And with if you are the definition that if you can do it, I mean, you with this busy schedule as you do, and you still have family time, like you said, like I love how you put the word balance. That's gonna be failure at the end of the day if you try to do that and check the box. It's a great takeaway. What does legacy mean to you as a dad?
I mean, a legacy to me is that I live a life that when my life is done, that the Lord calls me and says, well done, my good and faithful servant. In that pursuit, I know that the life that I lived will speak for me, so that my children can look and say, that is a life to mirror. Now, I can't say that I'm there right now, but that is what I aim to be. And in the pursuit of that, the remnants, the byproducts is righteousness, is values, right? It's identity, it's transparency. And my family, not me just to say, do this, but to serve as an example. That's my best legacy, is to get to heaven and them know daddy went to heaven and this is what daddy did. And this is how I have to live my life, right? I don't know if my son wants to be a CEO. I don't know if my daughters want to be CEOs. Maybe, but I can tell you what their conversations are right now because they see me. My son's thinking about products. And he's like, if I take on Omni, it's going to be an engineering practice. I want to create robots, right? That's what he's saying, right? He's talking about, daddy, I want to go to Harvard. He's 9. Because he goes, he sees it, right? My daughter's like, I want to go to Oxford. I didn't tell her, but she's there. She feels it. She touches it. She knows somebody who went there. She walked around, right? So it becomes tangible, and it's a byproduct of me being able to be in those arenas, right? Or my son, if I have an event and there's members of Congress, if the mayor's there, he sees me speak, I call him up. My son is here. It's starting to become common. And so what are they going to expect for their lives is commonality. And all they know is something that may be particularly uncommon for others. They're accustomed to it. And so, but within that, I want them to see how I operate, not so they can do that, but so that they can achieve something greater and have at least, if I could be a base point for them, at minimum, a base, right? I think that will be my legacy. My legacy is my family, right? Ultimately, maybe the things that I do will impact the community and multiple people, but God put my children and my wife within direct proximity. And some of the greatest leaders in the world have lost their families. If you look at Marcus Aurelius, who people say was the greatest thinker and emperor, his son was crazy. So here you have somebody that is raised up, right? The philosopher king, brilliant, led Rome through peace. And his son, his progeny is terrible. Terrorized Rome, right?
That's a lot to think about.
It is a lot to think about. And so for me, I want to impact my community, but I'll be remiss to think that my family is important. My son, my daughters, my wife, how do they perceive me? That is it. And then the rest will come.
Cesar, can you unpack how your faith has shaped the way you lead and live?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say that it shapes me daily. I get anxious, I get stressed, but then I realize that Christ told me not to be anxious for nothing. I feel as though sometimes I don't have anybody to speak to, but then I remember Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane when he didn't have anybody to speak to and he was talking directly to God. So I see these examples through Christ that I can utilize. And so I ask the Lord and Christ and the Holy Ghost to mold me. Like I ask God to possess my mind. I want a mind that's likened to you, Lord, because our brains are carnal, they're flesh. They will deceive you, right? Because we're spiritual beings inside of this carnal flesh. And what I want to do is diminish my earthly man and increase my spiritual man, right? Now, can I say that I've achieved that? No, nobody has. Right? Like, but that's what I aspire to. And so I want God to shape me. I want him to possess how I think and how I operate. And if I don't get something, or if something is happening in my family with clients, if I'm losing clients, if people aren't paying their invoices and I got to make payroll and I got to do this, and then I start to doubt, I need to remember that ultimately my goal is to get to heaven. And number two, God's going to take care of me. And if Jesus wasn't anxious, who am I to be anxious? And things always work out. They always work out, right? I've been in positions where I've been $500,000 in debt, where I was losing almost $2,000 a day while having a family, while having employees. Like, imagine what that does to you. Like, you wake up and you're like, I'm going to lose $2,000 today. I'm going to lose $10,000 by Friday. And imagine operating like that for 6 months to get yourself out of debt. If I didn't have the Lord on my side, I wouldn't be able to navigate that. And now, because of those experiences and getting myself out of scenarios like that where I made poor decisions, right? Ultimately, I can blame people, but the buck stops with me. So I have to take accountability for that. And once I take accountability for that, I realize that I've become stronger because of it. Because now, in my mind, I can say, oh, this is nothing. I paid back $500,000. So people are stressed out by $500. If it wasn't for the Lord, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at today.
That kind of wisdom stays with people. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely, brother.
And this is the part of the show I want to transition to, the Friday mindset part of the show. I want to dig into your journey, your mindset, and moments that shaped you. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I mean, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was from a mentor of mine that said, never let them see you sweat. Whenever you're going through it, it's good to have like a good cohort of people, maybe one or two men that you can speak to, right? Or you can be vulnerable with, but you got to be careful where you show your vulnerability. You have to be very careful because if you get enraptured with doubt and anxiety, it becomes pervasive. Your employees see it, your clients see it, your family sees it, your wife sees it, children see it, and then it actually aggrandizes the problem. I had an experience where I was getting married and we're in Costa Rica and my CFO was cleaning up my books because I made a bad hire, and my previous CPA was accounting revenue that was supposed to go to accounts payable. So he was accounting more cash than we had and then spending that cash. And so I had to hire a CFO that come in to reconcile the accounts and give me a clear picture as to like actually where I stood. And I remember I got married. We're in Costa Rica. We're in a beautiful home, right? This big like penthouse Airbnb on the side of a mountain. All my family's there. They're going surfing and they're spending money and do all this stuff. And it's great. And my CFO calls me and it's a Monday or a Tuesday. He goes, hey, we're done reconciling. I was like, all right, great. What's up? He goes, well, if you don't come up with 70K by Friday, you will be bankrupt. That's what he told me. Pay all your bills, pay all your stuff, everything that you got going on. Like everybody's going to come after you. And you got till Friday. What do you want to do? And I was like, how much do I need? Like 70K. I said, all right, cool. Closed the laptop, went out, had dinner. They went surfing. Hey, are you going to come with us? Oh, I can't. I got to finish up some work. And what did I do? Sales calls. Sales. Made what I had to make by Friday. And when I jumped on the sales calls, and I'm urgent, like I'm about to broke. I would tell the client same thing. I'm in no rush. I move at your pace whenever you're ready. And they're like, no, we're ready to go. We're good. And so I was able to, God willingly, like I'm not stupid. The Lord helped me. Was able to come up with that by Friday. Saved the company, saved everything. My family had no clue. What would it have done? Tell me. Hey, we just got married. Guess what? We're about to be bankrupt. Hey, everybody stop. Stop. Can't nobody go to the beach. What would I have done? It would have
That
accomplished.
is that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is powerful. That is so powerful because you didn't sweat in a situation like that because you really had to figure it out. You had to. There's no other option.
Yes, sir. You got to figure it out. And that's exactly what the best advice I ever got was never let them see you sweat. And then even beyond that is the Lord. You know, I had another mentor tell me that the greatest gift that you can receive is the Holy Spirit because
I love that.
it will
I
guide
love
you.
that. He will guide you, and as long as you are open for receiving it too, as well. Caesar, what's one truth about life that you wish more people understood?
The truth about life is that the entire purpose of man is to serve the Lord. The entire purpose of mankind is to serve God. What's the meaning of life? That's it. In service to the Lord, you will remember the voice of the Lord for your life. It's not what I want to do. It's remembering what he whispered into your soul. But then you're born and adolescence and a teenager and then trauma. And then here you come 21 years old. It's been 21 years since you might have heard the voice of the Lord. And then society comes and it confuses you, right? And sometimes people spend their entire lifetime and they're on their deathbed and then the voice is very faint. And they say things like, didn't do what I was supposed to do. It's remembering what that voice is. And the entire purpose of man is to serve mankind. Moses said it very clearly. He said, we are sojourners, right? He said, we are sojourners, meaning to say that we're just passing by. We're not meant for this. And here's the kicker. Some of us, the Lord has turned us over to what they call the reprobate mind, where we think, hey, we're intelligent. This Jesus and this God doesn't exist. And you don't even realize that God has removed himself from your life where you can't even perceive or want to accept him. So So he has anointed you to not be able to receive him. And so when I hear and I'm talking to people, they're like, oh, Jesus, I'm going to the Lord. Like, sounds good, man. I'm not an apologist. I'm not Rabbi Zacharias. I'm not out here like Sam trying to like be an apologist and shut you down. I think they're very important in the faith. But I'm here to witness. I'm not even here to convert. I'm here to tell you what my experiences are, and let that experience do what it will with you. If you don't believe, that's not on me. That is not on me. I'm here just to show you and tell you. It says witness, right? Yeah, I'm just witnessing. And so that's the ultimate truth of life, is that the entire purpose of the man is to serve the Lord. That is it.
That is such a good point, Caesar. The show is called Every Day is Friday, and Friday has a special energy, whether it's like freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you, Caesar. What does Friday mean to you?
Man, I don't know. I haven't really thought of it. Once you're running your own shop, and you know this, it's like every day is like, some people are like, oh, it's Monday. I'm like, look, I'm blessed. If every day is Friday means, because I think most people, when they think about Friday, it's the weekend, it's freedom, right? I get to do this, man. But it's true. For me, every day is Friday because I'm blessed, man. Look, I woke up, I got the activities of my limbs, I'm of sound mind, I get to go to work, I get to interact with my family, I get to interact with my wife, I get to interact with my kids, irrespective of what's happening, right? Think about at the end of your life, if you can go back in time, you'd probably go back in time on a day where you were just chilling with your family. And you're doing that right now, but like you're not in it, right? So like you're not in it. And so it just passes you by. So when I go home, I love to like throw myself on the floor and like the two babies just roll around me. Baby babble, blah, 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 blah. They're just babbling all over me. And I love it. And I try to like just be in it. Or even my son, he's gonna be 10 years old. And like I have videos of him just like playing in the bathtub, right? Because those things leave you, right? And so every day's a Friday energy. I love that energy because it's looking forward to like the weekend. But I say, man, that's the energy you got to bring every day.
I love that definition. I love that definition. It's a mindset that anything is possible and be in the moment, like you're saying. And Caesar, this is your chance to leave the listeners with something powerful. Is there anything else you want to share?
I would say that the best thing that I can share is, irrespective of like accolades, right? Because I remember when I was homeless and how people would look at me. I'm the same person. I remember when I got arrested and I was in an orange jumpsuit, the way that the COs would look at me. I'm the same person. And now people look at me a little differently, but I'm the same person. And so what I want to convey is to the listeners or anybody, is like, look, the belief in yourself. Because if I would have marinated on the perception of others when I was living in the street, locked up, wearing an orange jumpsuit, if I would have continued to like absolve myself with their thoughts and my current situation, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at today. Right. And here's another thing. I'm not dumb. I know that if I mess up, I do something stupid, my accolades don't matter because they're still going to think of me in that way. And so this belief in self and this belief in that God needs to order my steps, right? God order my steps. Irrespective of what's happened, that's why it says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but I shall deliver them all. Irrespective of what I have going on, Lord, you order my steps. And my belief in you and who you want me to do, that's what I mean as belief in self, as the self that God wants you to become. Let that maneuver, because some people are in bad environments. They're not bad people, they're in bad environments. You got to get yourself out of that environment in order to succeed.
I love that because to know thyself is so key.
Correct. You do. You got to know it. Everybody has their sins. Everybody has their kinks in their armor. And if you know you got a kink in the armor, repair it. Or don't put yourself in those positions where that kink can break apart. I don't know what that is for people, right? It could be anger. It could be lust. It could be vices, drugs. If you got a crack problem, don't be in a crack house, right? If you got a lust problem, why are you in a strip club? Why are you looking at porn? put yourself in different environments, right? And see what happens.
So true. And Caesar, all your information will be in the description down below. I want to make sure the listeners know where to find you. Where can the people follow and support your work?
Yeah, I mean, you can hit me up on IG, right? Cesar Hernandez Prime. I'm on TikTok and IG. IG is where I respond, right? So if you want to shoot me a DM, I don't respond on TikTok. I have a team that does that, but IG, I still have it. Uh, if you really want to get in touch with me, LinkedIn, it's because I have more people on Instagram and TikTok. LinkedIn, like if you hit me up, I probably see it immediately because on IG, I have like 3 channels of like conversations, or email me, ch@omnipublic.global. You're looking for, if my agency can help you out, fantastic. I do have some consulting packages just for entrepreneurs if you need breakthroughs in those arenas. But more importantly, just engage with me. I put up scripture as much as possible. All these things are fancy and they're nice, but like ultimately, like if you look at the content that I produce, is mostly about living right, my ideas on faith and Christ and family, and that's about it. So if that speaks to you, feel free to hit me up.
Caesar, I know the listeners got a lot of value out of this. It's been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you being here, and thank you for sharing your stories and experiences.
Absolutely. Bless you, Matthew. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you. And to the listeners, stay tuned for more amazing stories like this on Every Day is Friday Podcast 365. If you enjoyed this, make sure to follow and share and keep Every Day is Friday mindset going. Till next time, stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Until next time.